Hey guys, so it is time to talk about Monday Night Raw. This week we open up the show with MVP and Bobby Lashley. They go through the video package of what Bobby Lashley's done by destroying Big E and his attack on Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens. Then there is the talk by MVP about there being disrespect for Bobby Lashley. And keep in mind here that I do believe that Bobby Lashley should be in that main event conversation, okay? However, just personally, I would rather see a triple threat at day one as opposed to a fatal four way. But it really looked like to start out the show that is the route that we were going. So Bobby Lashley and MVP are out there, and then Kevin Owens then comes out, and he's going on about how he earned his spot in that day one match by defeating Big E. And he even went on to say that Seth Rollins earned his spot in that day one match by competing against three other men in a four-way ladder match that he won, earning that spot. And that Bobby Lashley had not actually done anything to earn that spot. Coming out and attacking a bunch of guys does not earn you that opportunity to just be put in a match. Of course, this brings up Seth Rollins, of course, who ultimately does not get along necessarily with Kevin Owens, but in this instance agrees with Kevin Owens that he did not earn that spot and should not be in that match. The only thing that they disagreed on was whose match it ultimately really was. They both kind of described it as theirs. At the end of the day, Bobby Lashley says, if you don't want me in this match, come and make me not be in this match or make me leave. Neither Kevin Owens or Seth Rollins wanted to do this. Both of them saying, well, you go in first and I'll follow you in. And each knows that if the other one went in, the other would not follow them in. This brings out Big E, who's like, I'm not afraid to go in there and defeat Bobby Lashley. I've done it before. But before he could get into the ring, Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce come out. And they make no bones about the fact that they like the idea of a fatal four-way and that no one is going to be getting in that ring and laying a hand on Bobby Lashley at that time, at any rate. That they are not afraid to hand out fines and suspensions. That comes into play here. Ultimately, what ends up happening with this segment is they set up 3 matches for the night. To be in that day one match, Bobby Lashley will have to defeat Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, and Big E in separate matches. So that's what we're going to end up getting. For any other person, you would think that there is absolutely no way that they're going to be able to defeat 3 top stars. But if WWE really wants Lashley in this match, that's what's going to end up happening. So throughout the night, it's going to give us at least 3 different matches and get these guys on TV, but it's okay. We have then a segment with Orton and Riddle backstage, and the essence of it was Orton basically telling Riddle, you need to focus on tonight, not focus on the Blazers and getting into broadcasting. That just needs to be in the future. You have a match against Otis tonight, and you need to absolutely focus on that. The match itself was not bad. Riddle got some offense in, and it gave us kind of a different match. I don't know that we've seen Riddle versus Otis, so, and it kind of showcased just kind of this new side of Otis. Ultimately, Otis did end up picking up the win, and of course, Orton wasn't thrilled about that, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. We then get a match between Bianca Belair and Doudrop. Each of them got really good spots in this match. It wasn't necessarily super long, but the finish was probably one of my favorites. There was the 450 splash after a powerbomb, and that allowed Bianca Belair to pick up the win over the Doudrop. Doudrop ultimately attacked her from behind after the match, but that's not too surprising. We then see Kevin Owens trying to prepare for his match. He knows that he's up first against Bobby Lashley. He got some good hits in on Bobby. There were a couple of times when you thought Owens might pick up the win. Ultimately, Bobby Lashley ended up picking up the victory. Owens starts to tap out before the Hurt Lock is actually even in, and he gets a little bit of grief about this from Seth Rollins later, but we'll get to how that kind of plays out there. We get the video package for Liv Morgan and the Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch from last week, where Becky retained. We then got yet another promo for Veer coming. We still don't know. They don't have an exact date yet as to when that's happening. We then have Becky Lynch. She comes on out to the ring. She does go a little bit into the angry Liv curl. She then tells them that they're going to need to get used to it because she's going to be champion for a while. Ultimately, Liv's music does end up interrupting her. We get a good promo segment between Liv and Becky. Liv ultimately showing the spot where Becky's holding the rope in order to pick up that victory last week. At the end of the day, I think the part about this particular segment I probably liked the most was that we got to see a more vicious side of Becky. We've seen her using kind of those heel techniques of kind of cheating, using certain means behind the official's back, that kind of thing. But we haven't necessarily seen a vicious side of her. But at the end of this promo, we do get that more viciousness when she's stomping Liv's hand into the steps, the steel steps. Ultimately, she does say that there's no able-bodied women that are good enough to challenge her, so she's just going to go home and train and be with her daughter. She brings up the hot husband as well in this, which I thought was kind of cute. She tells her to put some ice on her elbow, on her hands that she stomped, and that if she's ready to go at day one, she's willing to give her this rematch. And I believe that that is what we're going to end up getting at day one. I see them giving Liv that match that she will be ready to compete. And that is the Raw Women's Championship match we're going to end up getting there. The next segment, we get AJ Styles. He's talking to Sarah Schreiber. And she's asking him about last week and the disagreement with Omos. Or sorry, not... Yes, it was last week. Okay. And all he had to say was that, it was a miscommunication. They're on the same page. He's not going to give up on the special tag team. And then Omos comes up and he's in agreement that he's not ready to give up on it either. So these two are very much still a tag team. They're very much still on the same page. And I honestly think that that's probably for the best. Obviously, AJ is very capable to compete on his own and do his own thing. Omos is still really learning kind of this business and figuring out how to create his character. And at some point, I believe we will get a singles run from Omos. And it'll be a good run, I think, for him. But he needs to still kind of learn some of those nuances of creating his character. And he has a good person to kind of learn some of those things from in AJ Styles, a very good veteran in that business. So that's going to go very well for him. The next segment that we're going to see is a tag team match between the Dirty Dogs, Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler, and Finn Balor and Damian Priest, who are going to end up teaming up for this. This went back and forth. We saw some interference, if you will, some double teaming. We did get a distraction by Austin Theory here, which causes Balor to not be able to hit his coup de grace. With this, it also ends up costing him the match. So the Dirty Dogs end up picking up the win here. And we get another selfie from Austin Theory, which has become his thing. And that'll come into play here in a little bit too, that whole thing. We'll get to that. We then see Queen Zelina versus Rhea Ripley. Obviously, Carmella is there, and Nikki Ash is out there. They kind of go after it on the outside of the ring a little. Ultimately, Rhea Ripley loses due to Vega being able to get a roll-up on her. I don't know that this is necessarily helpful. Here's the thing. The women's division doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of competition right now, right? And so if you're going to have Nikki unintentionally somewhat causing a distraction when she's chasing Carmella that ends up leading to this roll-up win, you almost feel like they're teasing somewhat of a split for Nikki and Rhea, and that I just don't think they need right now. Not that I think that Rhea and Nikki are the perfect tag team, but they are a decent tag team, and right now you need all of them that you really have for this division. If we're being honest, we just don't really have a whole lot. So the next segment goes backstage to Seth Rollins, and Kevin Owens approaches him, basically telling him that he has a plan. He's going to be there at ringside to help him. And Rollins is just like, no, I want you to stay away. I want you to stay back here. Just watch him back here, and I will go take care of Bobby Lashley, since clearly you didn't even want to try. You didn't even have the Hurt Lock locked in before you tapped out. And Owens, of course, uses that excuse that he wants to be in good condition for that day one match, and he knows that he's not going to be in optimum condition if he gets anywhere close to getting locked into that Hurt Lock. So that was his excuse for not allowing that to get fully locked in. So we then have the back and forth with Bobby Lashley and Seth Rollins. It doesn't last all that long because Kevin Owens runs down and he actually starts attacking Seth Rollins. This has a purpose, because then you get the ref calling for the bell. Technically, Seth was declared the winner via disqualification. Bobby Lashley wins. That was what they thought was going to happen. At first, Seth was kind of upset until he realized what the purpose was behind it. And then he was somewhat okay with it. Like, okay, this wasn't actually that stupid of an idea. Until Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville come down and say, that's not the way that this is going down. We're restarting this match. And for this match and the other match with Bobby Lashley, there will be no disqualifications. And told them to ring the bell. Ultimately, Seth Rollins got laid out by a spear right away, and it was an easy pinfall victory for Bobby Lashley. So he moves on to his last match. We then have, in the next segment, Vince is in his office. He's talking to Apollo Crews and Commander Azeez. And Austin Theory bursts in and interrupts. And you can see that Vince is not thrilled about this. That he really feels like Theory was being very rude when he was in the very middle of what he considered an important meeting. And he thinks he can just barge in. After a couple of back and forth of, do you think we're friends? Do you think you're that important? This and that. Austin Theory suggests the match, and Vince is like, well, no, it's not happening. That they're not friends, and you have not impressed me. So that's gonna cause Theory to have to think a little bit more about what it is he's gonna have to do to truly impress Vince McMahon. Because clearly that did not do it. I could have told them that that wasn't going to be enough, but they didn't ask me. At any rate, then we go back out to the ring, and Maryse comes out. She is going to be introducing the Miz TV segment. So she introduces Miz then, and they're kind of celebrating in the ring. And he then says he's going to introduce the first endorsement for the induction for the Hall of Fame. Now, at this point, I really wasn't sure where they were going with this. If they were going to go with Miz or Maryse. Okay, hear me out here. Had they went with Maryse, I could have gone with this a little bit more. Because Maryse is not full-time in the ring, right? So to have her enter the Hall of Fame, I would be okay with this. Um, I would not hate it because she has done a lot for this business. And at this point, not being full time in the ring, it makes sense for her to potentially be that entrant into the Hall of Fame this year. However, they end up trying to put Miz in there. The issue that I have with this, and I get that it goes into that promo of him thinking that he is the best and that whole idea, but my issue with this is that he is not. You need to take these things seriously, okay? Because now at this point, when you start doing things like this, you make the whole idea of being inducted into the Hall of Fame and the prestige of that go down a little bit. And you don't want to start doing that. And that is my fear. Right now, Miz is without a doubt going to be a future Hall of Famer. Okay? Let me just emphasize that. He is. One day, he will be. He absolutely should be. Right now, with him being full-time and him just doing the things that he's doing right now, he's still amazing in the ring. He still is great on the mic. He's still great at putting people over while still being in that title potential picture, right? For either the mid-card or even the main event scene, right? There is still so much potential for him to be the WWE Champion, Universal Champion, United States Champion, Intercontinental, whichever. He still has time to do more of that, right? He's still in that spot, that part of his career. That is not the time that you put someone in the Hall of Fame. So to include a potential Hall of Fame induction and him wanting to be in there right now is just bringing a little bit of prestige down from that idea of the Hall of Fame. So Edge, of course, does end up coming out. He has some back and forth with Edge. At the end of the day, Miz does end up hitting a skull-crushing finale. He is going to try to hit Edge is about to try to hit a spear, but Miz pulls Maryse over and in front of him, using her as a shield. At the end of the day, this causes a confrontation between Miz and Maryse, because Maryse isn't happy about him doing this. She's like, I'm the mother of your children. You don't pull me in front of you as a shield. I'm not here for that. That's not what I'm for. At the end of the day, Maryse ends up slapping Miz. We will see where this leads. It's kind of intriguing. I'm interested to see where exactly it leads. We then cut backstage to Big E. He's preparing for his match against Bobby Lashley. And Seth and Kevin come up to him. They've got this plan. And he stops them before they even get a chance. He's like, I don't want either of you two idiots anywhere near that ring. You come near it, I will hurt you. Just, you need to stay far, far away from my match. At the end of the day, it was a pretty vicious match. It was the first one that from start to finish was absolutely no disqualification. And we saw tables, we saw chairs brought in. We did see, I believe we did see Rollins and Kevin Owens come out. I believe they did come out. Yes, we did. They did come out. I do believe. Yes, he did. End of the day, Bobby Lashley ends up winning with the spear. What this means is we are getting a fatal 4-way. I am not necessarily thrilled about this. It's going to be a good match, okay? At the end of the day, it is going to be a good match. You have two powerhouses in Bobby Lashley and Big E. You have wonderful performance in Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins, high flyer in Seth Rollins, a very technical wrestler in Kevin Owens, and Seth for that matter. Even Big E. I'm just a little disappointed. I would have preferred for them to set Bobby up as the next contender for whoever wins the triple threat, but this is what WWE wanted, and it's gonna be a completely fine match. It really is, and I'm still looking forward to it. I am, and that is my review for Monday Night Raw.